Not Barbara.
We've had an agreed change of order here. I call on the Honourable Julianne Genter.
Madam Speaker, I'm very grateful to be able to take this call because I could see I wasn't going to be able to before the end of this evening if I didn't take the call now. So very graciously, Labour's allowed me to take the second call so I can speak on this debate. And the Green Party has long supported investigation of time of use charging. So we were very pleased. I think we might have been the first party in this Parliament to have it officially as policy many years ago. I did mention that although the committee agreed the changes and the amendments unanimously, we still put in a differing view with just some other concerns where, we rightfully understood that the government wasn't going to address the concerns, but were the Green Party to be in government, we would like to see these concerns addressed. So the first thing is that there's many opportunities to have a better, more balanced transportation system here in Aotearoa. And in our largest cities, Auckland could apply in other cities. I know Wellington has been in support at a local level of wanting to be able to use a tool like congestion charging. We know that where it has been implemented overseas, it has been very, very successful. But in all of those cities overseas where it has been implemented, other things have been true as well. So the first cities to pioneer road use charging, time of use charging, are like Singapore, Stockholm, City of London, and then a few other cities, another Gothenburg in Sweden, and most recently, of course, New York City. All of those cities had a few other conditions as well, which the Green Party has policies to support, which is greater employment and residential density in their city centres, far greater provision of public transport services and lower charges for those, far higher charges for car parking. And when all of those things are true, then time of use charging can be very effective. And that is because here in Aotearoa, we don't actually charge in most places for parking what the value of the land is. And when you have those more direct charges, then you get more, people make different choices. When they're forced with the choice of paying up front, they might decide to do something different. And then you can get much more extensive and comprehensive public transport services that enable people to get around without having to rely on a car. And those who are using private motor vehicles for whatever reason they may be are willing to pay the price to use them. And that's useful. But our concerns were, and I'll lay out three of them. I have proposed some amendments, which I hope the Minister will consider at the committee stage. So maybe other parties would like to look at those amendments. They're already on the table there. Low emission zones. In the last term of Parliament, the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee conducted an inquiry into congestion pricing, and it heard from many expert submitters that we should be designing legislation to allow for low emission zones as well. So using the framework that is used in a congestion pricing bill to be able to achieve other outcomes, not just reducing congestion, but also reducing emissions by targeting high emissions vehicles with fees, for example. So that was an expert recommendation from other jurisdictions which have implemented one or both, either congestion charging or low emission zones or both. So it works slightly differently to congestion charging. And so we wanted to ensure that this legislation was broad enough to be able to enable local authorities to implement something like low emission zones. And that's really, really important because air pollution from motor vehicles has a huge impact on health. It has a huge impact on productivity and on our health system. So it caused approximately $10 billion in social costs each year, including 3,000 cases of childhood asthma. So when cities are able to have tools to manage those externalities, they often choose to do so, and that's really good to enable those local councils to be able to do things like that. This legislation, unfortunately, is very narrowly targeted to congestion charging. Our second concern has to do with local representation and decision making. And we were very happy that the committee did recommend a change which ensured that there would be an independent chair of the scheme boards. And we generally thought that maybe Waka Kotahi was going to have disproportionate weight on the scheme board for deciding really important things, and that there wouldn't be sufficient representation by territorial authorities. But then there's another kind of confusing thing that would not apply in Auckland, which is that if there's multiple territorial authorities who are choosing to join a scheme board, it could end up reducing the representation quite significantly from the territorial authority in which the scheme is actually operating. So in Auckland, this isn't an issue because you have an amalgamated super city. So there's really just the one territorial authority, which is a unitary authority. But in Wellington, for example, we have quite a few smaller councils who could choose to join the scheme board, who could argue that some of their constituents will be paying the price of the congestion charge. And yet the congestion charging area will not be within those territorial authorities. So the way the legislation is written, it could have a perverse effect of giving significantly more power to a scheme board as to whether a scheme is adopted, how it is designed, what the revenue is used for, to a much smaller percentage of the population that resides very far from where the congestion charging scheme is. And, maybe that's a worst case scenario, but I do think we do want to think about those hypotheticals and make sure that we're not accidentally setting up a system where outlying areas are determining where the revenue is going, when in fact, there's 200,000 people in Wellington City, and, how many tens of thousands in the Wairarapa? Significantly less. 55,000, but it could have 3 representatives on a scheme board. For 55,000 people could have 3 representatives, and Wellington City with 200,000 people could have 1. So that would be a very perverse outcome, and arguably, in the case of Wellington wanting to put in place a scheme, you would hope that there'd be multiple representatives could be chosen on behalf of just Wellington City to represent the different parts of the city and not have it disproportionately dominated by territorial authorities far away. And the final concern was about the use of revenue, and I have proposed some really specific amendments that we can debate in the committee stage if the minister has a change of heart. When congestion pricing schemes have been put into place overseas, the vast majority of surplus revenue has gone into additional public transport services, to reducing fares for those services, and to improving active transportation options. In the City of London, for example, we've seen, I think it was 80% of the revenue initially was just going into additional bus operations. There will be a certain proportion of the revenue that has to go to administering the scheme, and you want that to be as little as possible, but it could be 10 or 20%, could be more, obviously. But any additional revenue has to go into improving transportation options so that people can avoid having to pay the charge. And that's how it achieves congestion reduction. Because there's 2 ways you can avoid the charge. One is not traveling at all, and one is changing a mode of travel or carpooling, doing something different to reduce the impact of the charge. So if we don't want people to be stuck and not able to move around, we are going to have to significantly step up our public transport services, which I think everyone in Aotearoa knows have been lagging behind other parts of the world. We have higher fares on average than every city in Australia for public transport. In Brisbane, they set up a 50-cent fare anywhere recently. So public transportation is very expensive. It's gotten more expensive under this government because of the policies of Simeon Brown. And I'm hoping that the current minister will see fit to ensure that more of the budget can be used for public transportation fares. So it doesn't make sense to use revenue from a congestion charging scheme to build additional capacity on a motorway. That completely defeats the purpose, because when you put the congestion charge in place, that reduces the demand for the roads, and it increases the demand for the other forms of transportation. So that's why everywhere where this works, they have very, very efficient, effective, and very well used public transportation systems. So the Green Party is supporting the bill. We're happy with the overall direction. We do think there are further improvements that can be made, and look forward to debating those in the committee stages. Kia ora.
Okay, so I don't know what Bush was going on about before, saying that no one cares about what she has to think, because I cared about what she had to think. But yeah, our public transport needs a massive overhaul. The fares are too damn high. For starters, and we've got to make that cheaper, and we've got to make driving around Wellington in your own damn car more expensive. The only problem I have, and it's a bit of a nitpicky thing, but we're very bad at communicating as a country where the public transport is and how to use it. Like, for example, I drive into Wellington, right? I have to drive into Wellington because there's very few public transport options available to me.
Yeah.
And then when I get into Wellington, I have to pay $30 for a damn park.
Yes.
And that sucks. So we should probably change. Maybe my logic's going to be a bit different to Julie and Genter's. We need to have cheap parking next to public transport so people are incentivized to go use the public transport that is very cheap.
I mean, put it this way, Julie and Genter can pretty much use a protected cycle lane or a bus route literally from near her house all the way to Parliament. Whereas to you, I mean, you've got a Remitaka Hill Road in the way.
I've got a hill in the way.
You've got a railway line that is, is on bus replacement half the time because the tracks haven't been maintained since, before your parents were born.
Yep.
It's like a very different thing there. And I mean, yes, it's all great telling you, Laurie, you can divert off at Upper Hutt and park at the Park and Ride and Upper Hutt train station, but once you get down there and you sit down there and you got to, Brownell of Upper Hutt, and you just sit there and see that green traffic light that takes you down River Road out into the city. You're not going to sit there and turn down Ferguson Drive like we did back in prior to the River Road being open and park at the train station. It seems easier just to keep going down there. I mean, you could sit there and pull off at the Petone train station and catch the train from there. But, you know, I can see why sometimes once you've just gone through that whole slog to sit there and get you there, it's sometimes easier just to go to that last leg of the journey.
Yeah, I mean, put it this way. If I have to get off at Upper Hutt and then fart around waiting for the train...
Every 20 minutes off peak.
Yeah. So, but again, still farting around waiting for something. Yeah. And I'm like, look, I'm going to a place in Wellington I'm not familiar with. I just want to drive there because it's quicker. Yeah. And it's more efficient than me having to jump on all these public transport things, like get on the train, get on the bus, get on the train, get on the bus.
It's not like I'm trying to go to the stadium.
Yeah, it's like, shit, I got on the wrong train. I got on the wrong bus. That's happened to me before, going into Wellington. It's like, shit, I don't know where the hell I'm going, and then I'm late for my appointment, and then it's like,
Yeah, because you've tried to do the right thing. Like, I mean, I can tell you right now, like, if you're going to the stadium, I would not bother wasting your time with driving in, because the train station and stadium are right next door to each other.
Yeah.
But if it was, say, trying to sit there and say, go to Wellington Hospital from where you live, I'd drive all the way in.
I'm driving in. Yeah, it's like what happened when I was...
park at your sister's house or across the road from mine, you know?
Yeah, that's right. When I was in Wellington recently, I didn't even bother to take public transport because I didn't know what times the bus bloody left. I just ran from one end to Wellington to the other. Yeah,
exactly. It's the same with me with doing the doing the Muslim story, or like I had to do I chose to do a conference on rail infrastructure, and the conference was to do with live streaming.
Yep.
I had to pay to park my vehicle at prime property parking, and I paid $22 to park there for the day because I had to use my van to go in to drop off the gear.
Yep.
And I had to use my van at the end of the day to pick up the gear.
Yep.
So, and because I didn't have enough time to drive back to Newtown, that probably would take 20 to 30 minutes a peak, then jump on a bus that would take me 40 back in. It was cheaper for me to stump up the money and park at a parking building down the road from the venue than it was to actually drive back in. Now, the other part I do like the fact is, Julian's mentioned is about low emission zones. Now, this is something that MP Tamara Paul for Wellington Central talked about when she was in her first term on council, and the councillors were in quite agreement over. I'm not sure about Nicola Young, or Sean Rush would have been interesting because he was on that council at the time. But in general, many of the councillors actually supported the idea of what she was trying to push, because it was looking at long-term planning to sit there and make it that within the Golden Mile section of CBD to have hybrids, electric trucks, that sort of thing.
Paul, I'm not from the city, man. I'm a country bumpkin. So asking me to use my phone to like grab up a timesheet of all the buses and then trying to find the right bus stop to go to the next bus stop and go to the, you know, it's just easier for me to drive, man.
Jason, it depends on the parking building. What Jason's brought up about how your van can only usually park on the ground floor. Depends on the parking building. And the terrace, that is exactly correct, because ironically, in a recent event, they were going to get me to load in a particular security door that they realised they couldn't do because I drove into it, and suddenly the red lights go like, do not proceed, do not proceed. And it was just, what the hell? And it was literally because that particular parking building was 1.8 metres high. But you are right, some of them do that. But yes, the one I did park in had 2.1, which is fine for my vehicle. But yes, I know what you mean, yeah.
Yeah, like, I mean, like, I agree with Paul. Like, yeah, it's easy to find. I'm not disputing that. What is hard is when it's like your first or second time in Wellington, trying to navigate the entire system and going, got to catch this bus at this time, trying to get to this bus stop.
And I mean, I'm amazed how many people who actually, in theory, should know how to navigate our system and get it wrong. Like,
Yep.
I had a friend who was like to navigate a particular way back. He saw 83 bus, ran for it. It was the bus. It was the Eastbourne bus, not the Courtney Place.
Yes, I've done shit like that before because it's like when you.
Hey, I did it more recently.
Yep.
So on my bus route, the bus stop nearest my house, the high frequency buses are number 3 and number 4. Number 3 and number 4 are about a minute apart. From distance, oh yeah, it looks like number 3. It was number 4. And I only realised when I'm at Kilburnie, instead where they sit there and swing right to go past the Pack and Save down one side, they ended up going down the other part of Pack and Save out to Streetmore. It's like, whoopsie.
Yeah. Look, what I'm trying to say, folks, is we need light rail. Because I'm getting sick and tired of jumping off multiple trains, multiple buses, grabbing Uber, this, that, this. It's like, yeah, the less of that you have to do, the better.
Yeah. This is an interesting one.
12-hour day for me. Sorry, I don't quite understand. Public train when I leave Upper Hutt to Thorndon is 12-hour day. Oh, okay. The train ride.
12-hour day to sit there and do that, whereas driving in is 45 minutes each way.
Sorry, you're sitting on the train for 12 hours?
It's probably the whole manoeuvre is the manoeuvre, or doing the whole thing would instead of it being an 8-hour day, it turns into a 12-hour day because it takes twice as long sometimes to sit there and do the public transport. Like
Yeah.
a good example is like from my house to KCP Physio is 45 minutes in Paraparaumu. If I do it by public transport, it's 90.
Yep. So
And it's because
yeah.
and my biggest thing that holds me up is usually a 15-minute wait time at Wellington train station.
Yep, and that's what I was talking about before. Getting on and off the train, waiting for the train, waiting for this, waiting for that. Sometimes it's just easier to go from point A to point B in a car.
Yeah. I mean, for me, when I do submissions in Parliament, I normally catch the train, catch the bus in. But yes, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So, should we move on to what's the name of the bill? The Marine and Coastal Takatai Moana Customary Marines Title Amendment Bill Committee of the House.